Alrighty guys, what is up and welcome back to another stream or gameplay of Avorion. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Into the Rift DLC. We're going to start a new playthrough to give that a test out. I did see some comments on the beta videos that I uploaded the past couple days that my mic was a little bit weird. I went through and tried playing with the settings a little bit, so hopefully my microphone now is a little bit better. I do apologize on that. Generally, I leave the settings where they're at and they are fine, but yeah, I watched that video, and yeah, I know what you're talking about. It sounded a little weird. So hopefully that is resolved. Let me know in the comments if there is some tips you might have on how to make my mic audio a little bit better. But anyway, we're going to dive in. We're going to just play normal mode, and I think we're going to go veteran. Expert's fun, but we're going to go veteran for the new DLC. Give it a try. Let's go ahead. I think we're going to go ahead and name this Into the Rift LD7 will be the game name. Then for the seed, I think we are going to do Lone Debater 7. Just like that. We're going to play full collision damage. No tutorial. I don't need that. And here we go. New single player galaxy. Let's dive in. I'm pretty excited about the Into the Rift game, just in general, or DLC, just in general. It looks like it should be pretty good, but let's go ahead and wait here while this loads in. All right. Sorry about that, guys. One of my dogs wanted to get out of the room, so I went ahead and dealt with that real quick. Anyway, we're loading into the game. With the new Into the Rift DLC, there is some interesting things they added. So if you haven't seen my beta series, or the beta test of this DLC, I'll go ahead and link it up in the upper right-hand corner for you. Go ahead and give that a watch if you're interested in some of what's added with this. Basically, they've added hybrid systems. There's this rift area that you can go into, which is kind of like a dungeon, more or less, with a lot of Zotan inside of it. Should be pretty fun. I'm kind of curious to see how it plays from the very start of the game. If you encounter those rifts early, if you can actually go in and try to deal with them, or maybe complete them. They added a couple new captain types, so there's a scientist and a Zotan hunter captain type now. They added a bunch of new Zotan ship types. They added a bunch of new turret types, or not types, but new legendary tier turrets that you get from Rift missions. So it should be a lot of fun. There we go. Galaxy loaded. Back in our little droney boy. Fun times next to the resource depot. And we are with the Buccaneers of Jackaroo for our starting faction. Interesting. First thing I'm going to look for is this guy right here, the claimable asteroid. We're going to fly over and go claim that so we can get some starting cash so we can actually build a ship. It does look like there's a decent amount of titanium in this sector, so we will go ahead and mine some of that up and get a ship built. Generally speaking, in the early game, I try to gather some resources, get our main ship built out, and then try to get an automated mining ship up pretty quick. Now, with the 2.0 version of the game, they changed how captains work. You can do the long-term mining mission. In general, I've been trying to play using that, since that is the new game mechanic, more or less. But I think for this series, we might try just buying a bunch of iron tier mining turrets and using the autopilot function for mine and see how that works for us. Then we might be able to get some resources trickling in a little bit faster than we would otherwise, because the long-term mining mission, while it's great, it levels up the captains and all that good stuff, it does also take a while for you to actually gather resources, especially if you don't have super amazing turrets available to you. So with that, we're just going to fly over here. What we'll probably try to do when I actually dive into the creator to build out our ship, I'll probably try to time-lapse that just because it's pretty straightforward as far as building the ship is concerned. But yeah, anyway, we're going to try to get something decent. And by decent, I mean, maybe 4 slots in size with our first ship. That should be doable, perhaps. It might end up only being a 3-slot. Doesn't necessarily matter, I suppose. We'll be able to scale up relatively quickly, assuming we can gather up the materials. If they didn't change anything, I don't believe, with the Into the Rift update, where you still get the titanium building knowledge as soon as you mine it, and you get that for free, so that will be useful. We do need these credits, however, to actually be able to place the blocks. We're going to mine up some iron as well because we'll take a look at the resources in just a moment once we get over here and claim this. But I believe we don't start with anything, if I'm remembering correctly. We have like 10,000 creds or something like that. But here we are. We're almost in range. 0.2 kilometers is the marker. So there we go. Awesome. Yeah, we have no resources, but we do have an asteroid. Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to go for the extra money as opposed to the rep. It's an extra, 80 grand worth it at this point in the game when we have basically no cash. Because we're going to want to be able to purchase some turrets in addition to building out our ship, and that can cost some cash. Even though it's out in iron land or whatever, it still costs some capital in order to get stuff built up. So this part of the game, basically the same as it's always been in Avorion. You mine out some iron and titanium asteroids, you build your starter ship, and then kind of go from there. I think what we'll do is we'll probably time-lapse. We'll time-lapse once we get into the build menu. With this series, I'm kind of thinking what the goal is going to be. I really want to check out the rifts as much as possible, so we might focus on that. Now, with that being said, we'll still go through the general gameplay progression, get the various building knowledge tiers and everything like that. I have been playing around on the beta branch of Avorion for basically since Avorion, like a little bit before Avorion 2.0 came out. If you want to try out all the new build mechanics and everything like that that is associated with the Into the Rift DLC without actually purchasing the DLC, if you play on the experimental branch of beta, you will get everything that the Into the Rift DLC adds to the base game, minus the ability to jump into the rifts, if that makes sense. So you can't actually do the rift missions, but it will spawn all the new captain types. It will spawn, or it'll give you the ability to utilize the new building blocks. So they added in some blocks that are like lights, I believe, is the primary one. They added like a scaffolding block as well, I think. So if you want to try building some ships with those particular materials, or if you're holding off to buy the DLC for a little bit, but you want to get some templates built out in creative, if you go on the beta branch of the DLC, the new and experimental version, it will have all of the new build mechanics, so you can build your templates with confidence that it will actually work once you install the DLC. With that being said, it should be pretty good. There's nothing too major that they changed. I mean, you still have the building knowledge progression, which I actually like. I mean, it took a little bit to get used to, but now that I've played with it for maybe 2 or 3 different playthroughs, I actually like it a little bit better. You're not able to just build this insane ship as soon as you get the resource. There's actually a little bit of progression in each area. The one thing I did notice they changed, and I don't know when this change was implemented. It might have been with 2.1 or 2.2, but you can now get the building knowledge if you deliver ore into a resource depot. So this guy right here, we can't do it because we have titanium already, but once we hit Neonite, we'll show that off. There is basically a way for you to buy building knowledge from the resource depot, and then you don't have to have faction rep. So as I've noticed from playing the beta branch, they've removed the free slaves mission from bulletin boards pretty much. So that is no longer a viable way to build up faction rep, which is generally, or that was my approach to trying to get building knowledge, is just do a few of the build or free slave missions until your faction rep hits the 75k threshold or whatever it is. Then you can buy from the shipyard. But doing it from the resource depot is actually pretty easy because you just need to deliver enough ore of the tier material that you're trying to get building knowledge for. So there we go. We've got some titanium. It's going to pop this bad mama open. I'm almost certain that we've got the building knowledge already for it. We should anyway. I don't believe that has changed just because you kind of need it in order to build your first ship. As iron cannot build generators or energy containers. But we got about 100. We need more than that. We probably need closer to 1,000 titanium in order to actually build the ship that we want to build. So we're going to try to find some more titanium asteroids. I am just gathering up this iron that's right here because we're going to need some iron as well. Basically, this first ship is going to be built almost exclusively in iron outside of the generator and energy container that will be in titanium. Once your ship gets beyond like 1 slot, I want to say, or maybe 2 slots, something like that, you have to have an energy or a generator block So that requires you to have titanium in your build resource pool or whatever. So that is kind of the early game progression I generally go for. I don't think I built a pure iron ship like almost ever. Maybe the first time I played the game, but generally speaking, it's worth just harvesting up a few of the titanium asteroids that are around, because then you can get more stuff. Now, with that being said, I do want to just check this equipment dock and see what they've got for us. So they've got a fair amount of mining lasers. I don't see any R miners is the only thing. And I'd really prefer to buy R miners. It just goes so much faster from my experience. Let's go ahead and keep looking for the titanium. We'll come back and, okay, I don't need this notice on mail. This is where you get the building knowledge. Take all, delete. Cool. Now we can build with titanium once we utilize that item in our inventory. So if you're new to the building knowledge progression system, basically every new resource tier that you get, you've got to unlock knowledge for it before you can actually place it on your ship. So kind of a cool little progression thing. I am curious as far, like, testing in the beta, it seemed like the Rift missions are fairly end game. Like, you definitely need a decently beefy ship just because the Zotan are fairly overwhelming even at very low levels. With that being said, we might give it a shot once we hit Trinium tier, or maybe even before Trinium tier. It depends on if we encounter the station as well. So there's a specific like Rift Research Center station that you have to access or find or come across in the galaxy in order to actually look at the Rift DLC content. So once we find one of those, we may give it a shot, regardless of what tier our ship's at, and just see if we can actually take it on. Now, the one that I was trying out in the beta branch, I believe was just in the Trinium tier. I don't think it was in Xanian region. So we might be able to hit them fairly early. I'm not 100% sure on what the generation is for those stations, but in theory, you'd be able to access them reasonably early in your journey in towards the center, which is a good thing in my opinion, because then you can, experience all the DLC content, right? But we're going to mine up this titanium asteroid. Not 100% sure what size this is, just because we don't have a mining system, and this is just a little drone. But we'll gather this up, and once we hit like maybe 1,000, 1,500 titanium, we'll probably hop in the build menu, do the time lapse that I talked about, get our first ship up and running, and then we'll maybe go exploring a little bit, see if we can hopefully get some additional iron tier lasers and start getting our automated fleet built, or autopilot mining ship inside of a mining or asteroid field, so we can get some iron built up. That's kind of the plan for the early game for this particular playthrough. I haven't really done it that way since they changed the captains in the game to where you have dedicated mining captains or what have you, but I kind of want to try it this time around just to see how it works. I know sometimes the AI functions, so like the autopilot modes or whatever, are not the best in Avorion. If you've played, you're probably familiar with giving autopilot or automated commands with the AI. It's not always the best, like as far as the ships do weird things randomly for no apparent reason, but we will give it a shot anyway, and hopefully we will get lucky and hopefully get some good resources out of it early game. That way we can continue to expand our fleet. Now, I do plan on doing some of the long-term mining missions with a dedicated captain, just because ultimately that is going to work out a little bit better for you. Upgrading the captains, it becomes quite powerful once they get to end tier, because you get a bunch of extra turret slots, you get free system upgrades more or less for your ship as well. So trying to utilize the captain missions is a good idea in most instances. I just think at the start here it might be worth our while to kind of avoid that, because it takes a lot longer to get resources out of the long-term mining command. Even if you only set it for 30 minutes, they deliver every 30 minutes. That's why I'm saying that it takes quite some time, because 30 minutes of gameplay may not seem like a whole lot, but when you're trying to do things relatively quickly early on, it is quite a bit. So we'll mine this titanium, we'll maybe grab a couple of iron asteroids, and we'll jump in the build menu. I think I will go ahead and start the time lapse here while we finish mining these out. and then we'll come back in once we've got the ship built. But see you on the other side of the time lapse. So we are back out of the time lapse there. Hopefully that was enjoyable. So we've got a basic little starter ship. I kind of prioritize putting thrust on over some of the other blocks. We could have built out the generator a bit bigger, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and hit up this equipment dock, and let's trade some equipment. So shop resets in about a minute, so we'll give that a minute so it can kind of think about what it wants to do here. I mean, we could just go purifying miners, I guess. Then we don't have to build, cargo base on the ship that we're going to put in. So maybe we will do that. I mean, these are only 8K. So what are these looking like? Let's just go ahead and buy a bunch of these. This one has a little bit higher efficiency, lower DPS. Yeah, let's wait for this shop to reset, just so we can take a look and see what they've got for us. We do need to hire a crew, now that I'm looking at that. So we need a couple dudes for that. We're going to have to use basic crew for the one guy on there. That's fine, not a big deal. And you know what? We will go ahead and stick like that. Cool. Got a little bit longer. I thought that would take us there. Not quite, not quite. And honestly, I should probably swap these for the mining lasers. We need to go gather more iron so we can build the other ship. But here, oh, those are salvaging lasers. Okay, whoops, I misclicked and bought the wrong thing. That's fine. Hopefully we get our mining lasers then. We do need a couple miners. And we need to expand our crew quarters. I thought this would maybe be big enough, but apparently not. It's 90. Perfect. just got enough space for our friendly miners to fit on there. Let's see, what you got for me now? Still just purifying. So, okay, it looks like we're not going to roll the R mining quite yet, but that's okay. Grab a few of those. Do they have any turret systems? I'm looking for, so we could get a mining system straight out, but that's not really worth it, I don't believe. This is only 2 extra slots. That's not really worth it either. Let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and try warping out. I am going to throw a note on here. I like using a star when there's an equipment dock in the sector. Helps me keep track of where to go if I'm looking for things. So we will go ahead and... I mean, we could just mine out this sector, but I think we will go and warp to a new sector. Just for fun, just to check it out, see what's out there. I want to find a better asteroid field, honestly. That way when we put our automated ship, it can kind of, you know, have a fair amount to mine. Let's go ahead and we'll warp one more time. This is just a gate sector, not a big deal, but that's not quite what we are looking for. Honestly, it's probably going to be faster to go through this gate, so because we have to wait for our battery to recharge, which is going to take a while. So we'll just do this instead. Can't quite use the booster on this because we don't have a whole lot of generated energy. So that's all right. Not the end of the world. But it's looking okay. I mean, we've got our first little garbage ship built, more or less. We will upgrade this, of course, into something a little bit more attractive, a little bit more, you know, kitted out, as they say. But not a problem. For our first little ship, this is working just fine. It's got a decent amount of control with the thrusters that we've got on there. It has an okay amount of like armor, so hull points or HP, because I built out the entire frame with armor blocks. That's generally how I do it now. Like you could just use basic hull, which I think weighs slightly less, but here's the adventurer dude. Cool, that's awesome. Give me the loot, please. There we go. So now we've got our scanner. This is a shipyard sector, which is actually quite handy. So we will go ahead and throw the anchor for shipyard. But that means we can actually build and upgrade our ship once, like inside this area. So I'm going to go ahead and do some more mining. I think we will just wrap up the episode here for today. In the next one, we're going to go ahead and get that automated miner all set up. And we'll kind of walk through the process of how to get that done. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to like, comment, subscribe as always. And until next time, this has been Lone Debater 7, and we will see ya.